Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with your thoughts and feelings on the match. Get involved in the comments. Let me know what you felt. I felt overall it was not a good performance, but a good test for us and a bit of a reality bite, because I felt so far on this tour of the States, I thought we've been playing really well. Positive signs. Last night was a little bit of a blast from the past, where it highlighted some of the issues that are still glaringly obvious in the squad and in the team. I do think, though, he was a bit experimental from Ruben Amorim. Felt it was a little bit more about, we need to give Mbeumo some minutes. Probably needed to give Luke Shaw some minutes. Probably wanted to give Diego Dallo a bit of time. Rest Dorgu as well. So I think it was some of the selection and team selections was more about managing minutes to make sure that everybody on the tour has got game time and match sharpness as a way to build it up. So I do think that played a little bit into the team selection. Be interesting to see what the team will be next weekend, because I think next weekend we'll see a little bit more around, maybe the final team ahead of the opening game of the Premier League against Arsenal. So that's going to be interesting. I felt first 20-25 minutes, we had some absolutely lovely, when we play that one-touch football through the middle of the park, it literally makes me make sex noises. And we did it really well, got the penalty from it as well. That play for the penalty is exactly what I think Amorim's looking to do. It's just we can't maintain it, and sometimes we go to shit, and I still have concerns around us playing out from the back. I still don't think we look anywhere near good enough to compete when teams are pressing us high. We panic, we look nervy, and I felt overall the biggest question mark, as I'm sure most of you will say in the comments as well, is the midfield, isn't it? The midfield is the biggest issue now. Yes, we need a striker still, I think. We'll go through all the Sesko news in a bit, because he seems to be the main player that we're obviously targeting for that position. And actually, I could see a little bit last night where having somebody that's 6'5" up front would maybe help us from a physical perspective as well, because Everton were a big team in terms of their height. David Moyes is building a team there. You can see it, where they're just big units to kick the ball forward, win the ball and throw the ball in the box and win headers and stuff. Like he's building it seems like an old school team where he's looking to do that. And it was almost men against boys, but it's more so in the middle of the park as well, because I felt we were lacking in our dual winning, and we looked a little bit leggy. I didn't think the energy was quite there as we saw on the first two games of pre-season. But going back to the positives, I felt the one-touch football we played actually was really good. Nice to see Mbeumo get some time as well. You can see bits there. He was a little bit ropey and a little bit shaky, a couple of dodgy passes, but it's his first pre-season game, so I expect him to be rusty. It's just a shame we couldn't have got that deal done early, but we know the reasons why we didn't do that. But for his first 45 minutes, you can see what he's hopefully going to offer the team going forward. But yeah, the biggest question mark is that midfield, isn't it? The midfield is still a massive concern, because who's the best partnership in midfield? Because I felt with the game against West Ham, I'm thinking, well, Mainu and Ugarte looked like our best two, and I think most of you said the similar things in the comments as well. But then against Bournemouth, it was Bruno and Casemiro, and we won that 4-1. And you're thinking, well, okay, the midfield is still a concern, but we won the game, scored goals, and etc. And then yesterday we go with Mainu and Ugarte again, and Ugarte just completely shits the bed and looks like a completely different player to what he did a week ago when he was almost man of the match, I felt, against West Ham. And then yesterday or last night looked like a shadow of even a professional footballer at times. Like his head just completely went when he made that mistake, and there was like a period of time when you're thinking, Jesus, he's going to cost us again, and he almost did. And so that is a massive concern, because who is the midfield? The midfield for me is a massive worry, because I don't like Bruno and Casemiro. Don't think there's enough legs there. Casemiro, he might be one that needs time to get up to speed, but he's not quick across the ground. And I think if he's going forward a lot more, we're going to be exposed playing him there. Mainu's not got any pace neither, but he's good in tight areas and is 1 and 2 touch football, and his dribbling skills are good, but again, he's not got the legs to get back, and I don't think he's got the physicality there neither. Ugarte can, press, and he's like a bull in a china shop when he's chasing after the ball. That's his strength, but on the ball, he's terrible. So who is our best midfield? Like, that's a massive concern. So that's the one area where actually I come away thinking, not so sure, because the one answer I think would be Toby Collier, but clearly Amorim doesn't fancy him because he's tall, quick, athletic, ticks the boxes of what you want in a midfielder, but for some reason Amorim doesn't fancy him. Talk of him going out on loan. Sekou Kone's not had a minute pre-season either as well, so that would suggest that he's not fancied neither, so he's potentially going to go out on loan as well. So that's a massive worry for me. The midfield is the concern I have after that game, but we'll wait and see what we're like against Fiorentina. But hopefully we can get, we're going to need to buy somebody in that area, aren't we? And maybe if we do loan Collier out, get a loan fee or something like that, maybe it does give us a bit of cash or a bit of squad space anyway to bring somebody in, because we would, I do think we need somebody in there to partner Bruno, because like it or not, Bruno's going to play there. He's our captain, and if you buy Cunha and Mbeumo, they're going to play as your 10s. If you buy in Sesko for the price that's being quoted now, we'll go for all his news in a second. If you're spending that money on a striker, he's going to play as well. So Bruno can only play as the 8, and I don't think Mainu, Ugarte or Casemiro are good enough partners for Bruno, because that player has to have legs and pace and athleticism, in my opinion, because they're going to have to cover a lot of ground and be better on the ball than Ugarte. And because Ugarte, I think, can cover the ground. It's just, as we saw last night, he has moments where he struggles to look like a professional footballer on the ball. But, it is what it is. It was a reality check. But overall, I think the series, or the whole tour, is positive for me. I think it's good that we've had a test, and it's good that we've had, a bit of an eye opener, because you don't want to have false hopes going into the start of the season, thinking everything's fixed and we're playing this wonderful football and stuff, because the problems have been there over the previous games. I know you've been sharing, some of you in the comments, of the the worries about the midfield, and yeah, I agree as well. You have some good shouts regarding that. But I thought overall the series, some positives. We're getting a bit better. We look fitter. We look sharper. We look like when we're on it, we can press and win the ball back, and creating chances. We've actually scored some goals as well over the last few games, which is something that we couldn't do last season. So that's a positive for me. But then obviously the reality is we're not the finished article. We need players. We need signings to come in, because there are still problems with the squad. Notably, the 3 areas that we do need to improve: striker, midfielder, goalkeeper. And I would do it in that order as well, personally. Striker, midfielder, ahead of a goalkeeper. I know some of you will prioritise a goalkeeper. That's fine. We're all, we all have different thoughts and feelings on games and stuff. But I just think, if we've got somebody that can shore up that midfield, we're not conceding as many chances. Therefore, the goalkeeper issue is not as important as it is now, when you've got an open midfield and you're conceding loads of shots and chances, personally. But we'll see what happens. We'll see where we go. But give us your thoughts and feelings on overall, one, on the match, secondly on the pre-season tour, and how you're feeling about the team going forward. So give us your shouts on that in the comments below. But let's go through the transfer news then. So the talk of the town is obviously Benjamin Šeško, just mentioned there. So let's go through the Sesko news. So Benjamin Šeško's decision is imminent. Leipzig's Marcel Schäfer met with Sesko's agent yesterday and today. Sesko's choice will be pivotal for Newcastle or Manchester United's next steps. All parties seek clarity soon. Now, that came from Florian Plettenberg. There were some reports suggesting that maybe Newcastle have said to Sesko, look, we want a decision within the next 24 to 48 hours. Yes, that was yesterday as well. But as the time of recording, there's been some news. There's some big news, actually, which we'll go through in a second. But yeah, there's no Romano or Ornstein hasn't come out with any updates at the time of recording. They'll probably do it when I'm uploading the video, and I've already recorded it. That's always the way that's how things have been going recently. Jan Fjortov said that Sesko prefers Manchester United, but needs assurances the club can finalise the deal. So there seems to be a theme where, Sesko, there are reports that Sesko would prefer to come to United, but he's worried whether we have the money to do the deal without having to sell players first, because I think Sesko is in a position where he doesn't want to have to rely on us selling players for us to get the money to buy him. He wants to come as soon as possible, and he doesn't want to turn down, obviously, transfer offers from other clubs and probably more money from Newcastle as well, let's be real. If we don't then get the funds and then he ends up having to stay at RB Leipzig, that's what I feel the situation is regarding that. Kicker, who were a fairly decent source, said that Manchester United submitted their first offer for Sesko around 80 million euros, similar to Newcastle's. Both offers are insufficient for RB Leipzig, but provide a basis for negotiation. However, that's been dismissed by Christopher Michel, saying despite reports claiming that Manchester United had sent a proposal for Benjamin Šeško tonight, no offers have been made yet. And Christopher Michel is a good German journalist, so I would believe him over Kicker regarding that. Interestingly, though, Sky Sports Germany, saying that Manchester United have not yet submitted a formal offer for RB Leipzig. However, they have made their interest known verbally. Newcastle's bid of 75 million euros plus 5 million euros in add-ons hasn't met Leipzig's expectations, but is seen as a good starting point for talks. The final deal is likely to go beyond 80 million euros. Everything now hinges on Sesko's decision. 80 million euros, which is it's just under 70 million pounds. It's 69 point something million pounds. So you're talking 70 million pounds base fee for Benjamin Šeško, plus add-ons, plus a sell-on clause as well, is what RB Leipzig are wanting. So it's a massive amount of money for Benjamin Šeško. Bild were saying that Leipzig's demands of 80 million euro fixed for Šeško. Newcastle set a deadline, but he slightly favours Manchester United. Before committing to Manchester United, Šeško wants guarantees they can pay the transfer fee. So again, Sport Bild suggesting that 80 million euros fixed plus add-ons and everything like that as well, which is massive amount of money, but before he commits to coming to United, he wants assurances or guarantees that we can actually pay that fee, which is fair enough, I suppose. Florian Plettenberg said the same thing. As of Monday, 2 p.m. German time, Manchester United have not yet submitted a written offer to RB Leipzig. Newcastle's 80 million euro bid, so 75 plus 5, is not enough for Leipzig, as the total package is expected to exceed 80 million euros. The club is still waiting for Benjamin Šeško's final decision. And then we've had Sky Sports, though, come out saying that Manchester United are expected to make a formal offer to RB Leipzig for Benjamin Šeško. They have been in talks with Leipzig over what they would be prepared to pay. Now, that's really interesting, because I think that with this one, we're only going to make an official bid if we get the go-ahead from Sesko. We're not going to get into a bidding war with Newcastle, because we will lose. Newcastle have way more money than us. They can probably offer more money, more wages. They've got Champions League football. They're potentially about to get 120 million pounds if they sell Isak as well to Liverpool, and that's why I think they're looking for a striker, because they want a striker in before they sell Isak, which just makes perfect sense in my opinion. So we are not going to be able to compete financially with Newcastle. So the only reason we would prepare or submit, I think, a formal bid to RB Leipzig is if the player gives us the guarantee that he wants to come, because then Newcastle will pull out of the race and they'll not be in the equation, because Sesko will turn them down. So they'll move on to, their other targets. As talked the other day, they might be going for Watkins, ironically, or Wieser. They're interested in him as well. I did read another report they were potentially making a move for another striker as well. It might have been Gonzalo Ramos as well, potentially for Newcastle, and then that means that we then have the a open door to then start negotiating with RB Leipzig. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because if that's true and we are ready to make a formal offer, that would potentially suggest that we've been given the go ahead from Sesko, because we're not going to make a formal offer if the player wants to go to Newcastle, because we're not going to get into a bidding war with them, like I said, because we'll lose it. But then secondly, United don't want that. They don't want to sign players just because we outbid a club. We want the players' commitment first to come in, so that we know that they want to come to United and believe in the project, and are coming here for the right reasons, basically. So we need to wait and see how that plays out. No doubt we'll get a Romano update on this at some point in time today. Sod's law, probably when I'm uploading the video, so I'll bring you that when it comes, if it comes out in the future as well. But that's going to be one to keep an eye on and see how that plays out. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Now let's move on to some other transfer news. So Gianluigi Donnarumma is interested in a move to Manchester United, attracted by the club's stature. That came from Dean Jones, who's decent, suggesting that Donnarumma would potentially be okay, or happy or wanting to come to United because of the club's stature, which is fair enough. It's just I don't know how we're going to afford Donnarumma's wages. He wants 250 grand a week. That for me is one that if we sell Onana, then yes, Donnarumma might come in, unless we could do a loan. He's in the last year of his contract. That would be the only way I could think we could maybe get Donnarumma through the door, but we'll keep an eye on it. There's more, there's no smoke without fire. I do think we've made inquiries on maybe keeping an eye on the situation and maybe could make a late move if, we create squad space or we get an offer, or even if an opportunity arises, then potentially we could make a move. But yeah, we'll wait and see how that one plays out. Manchester United are actively monitoring Botafogo's experienced goalkeeper John Victor as the club looks to strengthen its options between the posts amid growing uncertainty surrounding Andre Onana's fitness. I did see somewhere that maybe West Ham had made a bid for Victor. I might have misread that. I don't follow too much other clubs' transfer news and stuff, but that's potentially another one. Would be a cheaper goalkeeper to bring in. But again, the reports recently are sell to buy. Sorry, for goalkeeper, we need to actually sell Bayinda or Onana to bring a goalkeeper in. But again, we'll wait and see, because there's still a few weeks left in the transfer window. So there could still be some movement now the tour's finished, players are coming back. Hopefully we'll see a bit more activity between now and the end of the transfer window, specifically on. So be interesting to see what they do with the goalkeeper situation, actually. But we'll keep an eye on it. Now, are we ready? We've got another bullshit transfer story of the window. I think this is a contender. So far, it's Tchouaméni that we've been linked with, is in the lead, I think, for bullshit transfer story. Then we've had Rafael Leao as well, linked pretty much at the start of the transfer window. This going straight to the top. So, like every transfer window, Manchester United are being linked with a sensational and shocking transfer in the shape of Vinicius Junior. Spanish outlet Ficheias have claimed that United are preparing a £175 million offer to sign the Real Madrid star. The Brazilian has 2 years left on his current deal, and Real are currently unwilling to break their salary structure. The report claims that United chiefs believe Vinicius could be the flagship signing of a new era. Now, I read that in the Manchester Evening News, and this is exactly why I've been saying I do not rate Ficheias as a source of information, because they will bring out bullshit like this, as if we have got £175 million to go for Vinicius Junior. That is straight to the top, number one in the charts. A bullshit transfer story of the window, and I think it's going to take some topping, being completely truthful with you. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. Now, this was really interesting, actually. Obviously, I brought you some news yesterday. Amorim's done some interviews and been doing some talking recently as well. So this was really interesting from, I read it in The Athletic, but this was from, I think, the interview that he did on the BBC recently, saying that United under Amorim's direction have introduced a code of conduct detailing expectations and possible sanctions. The list is fairly extensive and includes notes on timekeeping and engaging with fans. New signing Bryan Mbeumo was applauded onto the pitch, seemingly ironically, when he was the last to arrive for training before the Bournemouth friendly at Chicago's Soldier Field this week. So again, I read that in The Athletic from Laurie Whitwell, suggesting that United or Amorim have introduced a code of conduct, so some sort of like rules and maybe even, I don't know if it's a binding contract or something like that the players have to abide by. And if not, they'll face sanctions and fines and all of this stuff as well, which I like. And, I do like the idea of doing that. But again, it just pisses me off, because why have we let it get to this point in the first place? You know what I mean? This stuff should be standard at Manchester United, but it's obviously hasn't been. And I think the lunatics have been running the asylum a lot of the times as well, and that just shows the mismanagement of the Glazers and Arnold and Woodward and Murta and all of those people. They just clearly didn't have a clue what was going on or couldn't control what was happening at United. And I like the fact that Barada, Wilcox, Amorim, everyone like that is actually trying to get this shit under control, because it's the right thing to do, and hopefully we don't need it going forward, because then we just create an atmosphere and an environment where players are just towing the line naturally anyway when they come to United without having to be told. But I digress. Amorim on it himself said the rules are not to treat the players as babies. They have sons. I treat them as a man, but they have rules now, and that can change the way you train. If you don't train the right way, I have footage to show you, and I will show you in front of everybody. So I'm always on top. So Amorim saying, look, if you're not training properly, I'll out you in front of everybody. And then again, I think that's good, because if you've got a it's work hard, play hard, isn't it? Train as you're expecting to play in the games. Do you know what I mean? And I like that from Amorim. So I like this whole thing, this whole reset that's going on behind the scenes around mentality, attitude, work rate, being freaking on time, and all this stuff that's had to come out. But it's sad that it's had to be leaked this way and that we're in this position, but it just shows all the problems behind the scenes as well. And I did say that, this sort of stuff will come out in the wash, and we're starting to hear more and more around, it gives you an idea, I think, anyway, as what's been going on behind the scenes. On it himself, Paredes said it is about raising standards and being very disciplined, and the way you approach the application of these standards, we have to make sure that everybody abides by them, that everybody believes in them, and that nobody falls out of line. It is really important for us to create that sense of togetherness around a single idea. So Paredes back in the code of conduct, saying that everybody is abiding by the same rules. We have a vision, an idea, and everybody's pulling in the right direction. And that's the main takeaway I get from that as well. And again, that can only be helpful for us going forward. And then interestingly, I don't know whether you saw this in the post-match interviews last night. I'm not going to go through loads of quotes and comments and stuff, but the interesting one was Bruno Fernandes said we need more quality to get everybody to step up a bit more, to have more to do to get into the starting 11. And I think that's what the club and the manager are trying to do. And hopefully we can get one or two players more to help with that. So Bruno Fernandes was saying in the current state of the squad that, look, we want competition basically, because competition keeps you on your toes. Nobody's then comfortable. If you're competing with, 2 or 3 players in your position, then you've got to be on the ball. You've got to be training right, going back to the code of conduct. Otherwise, Amorim will call you out in front of everybody for not doing that. And then more importantly, you'll not be in the team. And then if you're not in the team, that affects your international career and stuff like that as well. And having that healthy competition is important for us. But interestingly, that Bruno's saying we still need 1 or 2 more players as well, which hopefully we can do. There's still time in the transfer window. Hopefully now we're back after the tour, we can start seeing some movements, because my God, the midfield worries me more, because it looks like we're going for a striker, because we're going for Sesko. We know we're in conversations, and we seem to be going down that route. Obviously, the latest I brought you earlier coming from Sky suggesting that we're ready to make a bid. What that means, who knows? We'll wait and see how that plays out. But if we don't get Sesko, then we're still potentially in for like Watkins and stuff. And if we didn't get a striker, can we pull money out on a midfielder and get a top quality midfielder in? Would be, I wouldn't be against that neither. As long as we bring in somebody in those areas, then I'm cool with it. But hopefully now we're off the tour, we can start to see a little bit more movement and stuff, and I just like to think that behind the scenes they have been working on deals, which clearly they have, because we're in talks. I said we're in negotiations effectively with Benjamin Šeško and speaking to his agent. Just the midfield that worries me, because we're not really that linked with that many, but maybe they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat there. Interestingly, though, on that, Paredes said that we have to do a lot of multitasking. We have a team back home led by Jason and the recruitment team that is working around the clock to ensure that we continue to find opportunities to strengthen our squad. There are lots of late calls and early morning meetings to make sure we stay on top of it. So Paredes saying, look, yes, obviously we know Paredes and people like that are in the States and on the tour, but actually Jason Wilcox and the recruitment team are not. They're back in the UK, or have been this entire time, looking at opportunities and maybe potentially working on things behind the scenes as well. So I'd just like to think that hopefully we can get some deals done, over the next few weeks. But let's wait and see how it all plays out. But a lot of that might depend on exits. So let's go for the exit news. This has infuriated me, but Real Betis have made a loan offer to Antony, but without any obligation to buy. At the moment, the Spanish club isn't pushing for serious talks and seems content to wait things out until the final days of the transfer window. Manchester United are looking for around 40 million in a permanent deal, but Betis don't believe they can afford that fee. They're also unwilling to cover Antony's full wages. This deal is absolutely pissing me off. And I just really hope that if this deal doesn't go through, we just do not do a loan, because we don't have to sell Antony yet. As long as we sell him before the 30th of June, right, or do something with him then, I'd make him sit on the bench, or not even on the bench, just make him train behind the scenes, with the reserves or the 21s until at least January, just as a an FU for turning down deals and waiting for this when Betis are literally openly saying what they're doing as well. It's just really infuriating me, this deal. Antony has reportedly turned down the chance to leave Manchester United for the third time this summer in a bid to get a return to Real Betis. Al Nassr is said to have been turned down by Antony, the Spanish outlet Sport claiming that the Brazilian is desperate to secure a move back to Betis. So another report from Sport in Spain, who are a decent outlet, suggesting that he's turned down a move to Al Nassr because he wants to go to Real Betis. But as we said as showed in the previous report, Real Betis are just trying to do a straight loan, no obligation to buy, and are not prepared to cover his full salary as well. Well, in which case, piss right off. Honestly, it's infuriating me, this Antony deal, because we could get him sold. We've got teams that want to buy Antony, and he's got teams that actually good teams, Como, and I think there's a few other teams that have come in for Antony, and he's refusing because he wants to go to Betis, and Betis can't afford him and can't afford his wages, so he's waiting until we just sanction a loan. And I would literally refuse to do that, because I don't think that it's, if we sell Garnacho and get the homegrown profit from that, I don't think we're going to be in a position where we then have to sell Antony from a financial perspective, because it's not actually that much profit. It's more his wages off the books as well. And it's not necessarily the worst thing, I don't think. I think we could take the hit and make a point and literally make a point with Antony to say, no, we're not being mugged off anymore. So unlucky, wave goodbye to the World Cup, because if you're refusing offers and waiting to go on a loan, that's ridiculous in my opinion. But it just makes me angry. I'm going to move on. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. The other exit is Garnacho. So Fenerbahce manager Jose Mourinho is interested in Alejandro Garnacho, and the Turkish club are considering a €45 million offer that came from a fairly decent Turkish outlet. But as we know full well, he's going to Chelsea. And we're just waiting. Chelsea are just waiting to sell players in order to bring him in. So Garnacho is now truly convinced. Chelsea is now truly convinced with Alejandro Garnacho. Personal terms will not be an issue, and negotiations with Manchester United are expected to begin soon this month. So the latest on Garnacho, he's going to go to Chelsea. Reading between the lines, according to Romano, he's waiting for them. He wants Premier League football. I think he's already got an agreement and all that stuff in with Chelsea, and they're just waiting to sell some players, and then they'll start negotiating with United, and hopefully we're not going to get our pants pulled down by Chelsea, which probably we will, and we'll end up selling him for what less than Tyler Dibling goes to Everton for, because I think they've just had a €40 million bid rejected by Southampton, and we'll probably end up selling Garnacho for less than that as well. Brilliant. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video. That's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.